find solace in the fact that it is our gathering here as a family and community, sharing our joy, our sadness, and our individual and collective memories of Mary that will serve as a proper tribute worthy of the life that Mary led. As with all great stories, we begin at the beginning. We step back in a simpler time, August 4th, 1941, the day God opened Mary's eyes to a world that she would eventually impact in ways that we still have not fully understood. On that day, Mary was born to Frank and Ruth Orona and joined her beloved Salt Creek community. Mary was sister to my Aunt Virginia, my Uncle Frank, my Uncle Edward, my Aunt Stella, my Father Daniel, and my Aunt Phyllis Ann, and niece to my Uncle Alex. The house where we grew up in was modest in stature and free of complications, but was consistently warmed by the love emanating from her siblings, parents, and our Uncle Alex. From an early age, God touched Mary's heart, sparking an unquenching passion for teaching and service to her community and her church. This passion was evident in those early years as her mom, my Nana Ruth, would bake her famous bread and white cakes for fellow Salt Creek families who were mourning the recent loss of a loved one. During these trying times, young Mary would cut a hole in a white towel and wear it as a nun's cloak and insist on joining her mom, wearing her nun-inspired ensemble in delivering the baked goods to the grieving families. When she wasn't tugging at her mom's apron strings, Mary's younger sister, my Aunt Stella, would pester Mary to join her in the neighborhood sporting events. To my Aunt Stella's dismay, without exception, Mary rejected her sister's offers, in that the prospect of child's play failed to distract Mary's thoughts and daydreams of eventually becoming a nun. As she progressed in her early school years, Mary attended grade and middle school here at St. Joseph's Church. It was during these formative years that Mary's calling into service of the church began to take shape. With great anticipation, young Mary would attend movie night at St. Joseph's, where she would be captivated by the Catholic-inspired movies featuring various saints in all of their glory. Young Mary was particularly taken by movies featuring Joan of Arc. In her latter years, Mary would credit these theatrical experiences, particularly those that featured Joan of Arc, as inspiration for her life dedicated to service of others. Understanding that she would not follow a traditional academic path, at the tender age of 13, young Mary informed her mom, my Nana Ruth, that upon graduation from middle school, she would be leaving her family and beloved Salt Creek and formally answer her call to service and begin her religious vocation with the Benedictine Sisters in Yankton, South Dakota. My Nana Ruth, true to her motherly nature and faithful Catholic background, realized that young Mary's decision to leave was not hastily made and was truly a manifestation of God's will. Lovingly, my Nana Ruth did not oppose Mary's desire to leave. In contrast, Mary's father, my Grandpa Frank, was not so understanding. As a father of two daughters, I empathize with my Grandpa Frank, unwillingness to let his little girl, Mary Vivian, as he affectionately calls her, leave his house. Again, she was only 13 years old. Father Murray in St. Joseph's Church met with my grandpa 3 times in a tireless effort to convince him to allow his Mary Vivian to leave the security of her family and venture into a world that would be daunting for an adult much less a 13-year-old child. I suspect that my Grandpa Frank feared that if Mary Vivian left, she would never come back. With the exception of a few brief visits, my grandpa's fears were eventually realized. However, my Grandpa Frank reluctantly came to the conclusion that his little girl was destined for a life of service beyond the confines of Salt Creek. With a heavy heart and faithful commitment to God, my Mama Ruth and my Grandpa Frank released Mary Vivian to the church. Immediately upon her middle school graduation, young Mary began her life's work in South Dakota. Within 5 years of her arrival at the Benedictine Order in South Dakota, Mary impressively obtained her high school diploma while also receiving a bachelor's degree specializing in religious studies and Spanish. During the time between her first vows and final vows, Mary, a novice at the time, taught religious studies in Spanish at the local university. At the tender age of 20, with her family at her side, Mary took her final vows. On that same day, then, Sister Mary was informed for the first time that she would immediately be transferred to South America and began her service as a missionary in Bogota, Colombia. True to her nature, Sister Mary humbly and reverently accepted her missionary calling. During her time in Bogota, Sister Mary embraced life's calling as a teacher and a living manifestation of God's love and devotion to all, especially those in need. However, Sister Mary's time in Bogota was short-lived. Within a year of her arrival, Sister Mary answered the church's call to leave Bogota and continue her missionary services in the jungles of Guatemala. It was in the impoverished villages of Guatemala where Sister Mary found her life's purpose and satisfaction. She tirelessly served those that were breathtakingly poor and spiritually empty. The 3 decades Sister Mary spent serving the poorest and neediest of the Guatemalan people resulted in thousands of vulnerable children receiving a formal education, while a nation of weary and impoverished citizens being empowered with the grace and love of God. For brief moments in time, Sister Mary would return to her beloved home and recharge her soul with the love of her family and the support of the Salt Creek community. During these treasured visits, Sister Mary experienced the simplest of life's enjoyments with her family and friends. However, these precious visits were always overshadowed by Sister Mary's need to return to her life's work. Consistent with the surprises that always make life fulfilling, after 30 years of missionary work in South America, Sister Mary met and fell in love with my Uncle Victor Lopez. Their love was not expected, but it was surely consistent with God's plan for Mary and Victor's life. The newlyweds left Guatemala and established a newly purpose-driven life of service in Pueblo. Mary's impact on the fellow community and beyond is an unprecedented story of legends. Her impact, both spiritually and socially, transcended generations of Puebloans. Mary quickly became a powerful tool used by God to bring the wayward and lost in our community to the full life of Christ. Truly, God in all his glory could not have created a greater spiritual warrior than the one he crafted in Mary's soul. Her dedication, love, and service to our community was vastly diverse in type, but consistently humble in delivery. It was clear from the day she returned to Salt Creek up to the time of her passing, Mary was passionately driven to serve, teach, and guide the youth of our community. She taught in the classrooms of many middle and high schools in Pueblo, ensuring the youth of our community were comforted with the knowledge of God's grace and there is non-judgmental support and love. Her religious instructions were legendary, while her continued service to those most in need was commonplace. People of all ages flocked to Mary, if only to feel the warmth of her soul, the compassion of her voice, and the comfort of her love. Mary showed us the good and compassionate side of our humanity. She taught us the value of service to others and to have faith in our fellow men and women. She fed those who were hungry, encouraged those who were downtrodden, remembered those who had been forgotten. Her touch was delicate, while her commitment to her community and her church was ferocious. Mary was the very essence of compassion, of duty to God, and strength and love for her family and community. Throughout her travels, she was a symbol of selfless humility, a standard bearer for the rights of the truly downtrodden, a Catholic with unlimited commitment who outright rejected the popular trappings of a society consumed with material greed and love of self instead of others. And so today, I am humbled to stand in front of you and celebrate my Aunt Mary's life. For it is her life that speaks, not her death. It is her commitment to those truly in need that is in the forefront, not her sorrow. And it is Mary's hope and belief in the goodness of all people that resonates, not our despair. And to my grandpa Richard Orona, your Mary Vivian has been returned to you. Embrace her. Enjoy her. Love her. And cherish her, knowing she will never leave you, and I will be beside her.